Regina, bringing you another Afrocentricity Bookman show. I hope everybody is well. This corona thing seems to be kind of going down. It's hit its peak, it seems to be going lower and lower. But we still have to stay safe though, because it's still kind of dangerous out there, yeah? So everybody's good, your families are good. It's been my good friend, Elder Caprikai. He had some bad news the other day. Unfortunately, a young lady is up in Birmingham, and sadly she passed away very recently. So, I mean, I think we all know somebody who's been touched by this, directly, yeah? But we just have to stay strong and support each other, yeah? In unity, we can accomplish anything to do, yeah? So, this is the project that we are reading in the Afrocentricity.
Yo, Jenna, hi, Bridget, hi, how you doing? Can you hear me?
We're last 3 chapters now. So,
Hi.
it's by Dr. Anna Krenga. It's called Struggle and Culture Towards a Natural Black Value System. Greetings Paulette, and greetings Kate. So, we're going to make a start. Yeah, one love. So, Dr. Anna Krenga, as you know, he was the creator of the Honor Celebration. So, please listen in. It's a really going to talk about culture and struggle. So I'd like to start out by saying thanks very much for the invitation to come and share some thoughts on critical questions that affect our lives as African people. Tonight is, as the title said, my lecture focuses on struggle and culture towards a national black value system. Tonight, what I'd like to do is to introduce my philosophy called Awada, which is an ongoing critical synthesis of the best of nationalist, pan-Africanist, and socialist thought. It is a nationalist because I start with our people, pan-Africanist because we are a fundamental part and support the concept of a world African community, and socialist because it is necessary challenge to the world capitalist situation and system, as well as because it rises out of our social, because it rises out of our social welfare concern rooted in our own history. So communalism and the structure went into developing and sustaining a communitarian society. So in 1965, I argued the key crisis in the black life is the cultural crisis. When I say that it's the key crisis in black life, I mean also that it is a key challenge in black life. This is to say that given the cultural situation of black people of the continent, Africa, as well as those on the continent, but especially for diaspora Africans, the key challenge is to rescue and reconstruct our culture and shape it in our own image and interest. For until we do this, we cannot successfully purpose politics or economics or art or anything else. They need a cultural anchor first. So let me say, I totally agree with that, because we can do our economics, we can do our politics, we can do many different things, but if it's not grounded in our culture, it's not going to go far, it's not going to be strong. Everything we do must be rooted in our culture. This is why our enemy attacks our culture, because it weakens us. Our culture, as we'll see, gives us our value system. It gives us a mirror we can hold up to our face, look and see I'm doing the right thing. What's key is that the world we want to live in, start living like that now. So when we get there, we're already doing, our culture is already the culture for that place we want to live in. So, I'm even more convinced of the centrality, even indispensability of a cultural revolution among blacks, in order that we can rescue and reconstruct our history, humanity, and begin to shape our lives in our image and in our interests. Now, when we say culture, we need to understand that I'm not talking about creative art. These people, when they talk about culture, talk about art, music, literature. Some people talk about food. You have to greet it, Sif, Kumba. But I want you to understand that I am not talking about creative art. People believe that those smaller things are culture. But literature, music, art is all part of our culture, but they are not culture. So to me, that's just one aspect of culture, creative production. However, when I talk about culture, I'm talking about the totality of thought and practice which a people creates itself, celebrates, maintains, develops itself, and introduces itself to history and humanity. So that's big, guys, yeah? Culture, this is how Malala Karenga defines culture. He says to him, culture is totality of thought and practice which a people creates itself, celebrates, maintains, and develops itself, and introduces itself to history and humanity. We have to have that kind of culture. The problem is that we don't have a national culture, just described. Instead, we have a popular culture, some pieces picked up from the context in which we find ourselves. For you, see, don't really have a cultural grounding. You don't really know yourself. It is not enough to have it's not enough to just have music. It's good to have reggae music, rhythm, blues, and the like. I mean, it's good to have that. It's good to have our artists and our artists to write for us, and draw and paint for us. But of equal importance, maybe even more important, is to have a context in which we can do that and have values by which we can judge what is produced. You see, you can produce a lot of art, but it can be more damaging than it can be constructive. It can be more destructive than it can contribute to liberation and a higher human life. So I argue that we need culture. And when I say culture, again, I'm talking about the totality of thought and practices by which a people creates itself, sustains and develops itself, separates itself and introduces itself to history and to humanity. And this activity must occur on 7 basic levels. What I want to do is to use these 7 basic levels as a fundamental analytical framework in my lecture tonight. Now, I know a lot of people disagree with me. We need a cultural revolution which seeds, makes possible a political revolution. We had these arguments in the 60s. We argued with people who argued that their jobs were more important. The question was, say, brother, how can you talk about culture when there are people unemployed? How can you talk about culture when they're sowing brutality in the streets? When will you get out there and do something? We do need to do something. Who can disagree with that? But the question is, what are you going to do? And for what purpose? When are you going to organize it to do it? Surely to act without thinking, to think without acting, is correct. One must think that the act will refine the thoughts, and the thoughts will refine the act. But you must have a framework in which you do. Otherwise, you do some good things, you'll do some bad things. Have you ever considered why sometimes you do good things you like, and sometimes then the next time they turn around and do something totally different? And then you say, hey, how can they do that? Excuse me for a minute. Apologies. So I thought you were black. It's because they don't fit what they're talking about. Doing in a framework, a philosophical framework, you can judge what they are doing. So what we need to do is to decide on basic values, view and view required in our rebuilding African culture and begin to redefine what we're supposed to be about. And until we do that, we're going to have something right and other things wrong. We're not going to always argue necessarily about what we should be about. In fact, what we need is more unity than we need dissension. I'm not calling for a coercive unity, but unity without uniformity. A unity born on principled and necessary struggle around clearly defined issues. Also for unity that is active and operational, which presupposes some similar views and values. For sometimes we don't have similar values. We just end up arguing unnecessarily. Sometimes we become each other's main enemy rather than rest. To continue, some say each other, but it is so, and it is so. But the fool who had a job, and he and she didn't go to it. How do you explain that? Well, the problem is culture. The problem, views and values and practice that evolves from the culture is at the core. Deals with views and values. When then are the problems of black views? What are the problems of black values? Of course, we are talking about the African views and the problem of African values. When I say we have a problem of views, the total problem of views, I mean we've got an ineffective and deficient concept of self, society, and the world. This then is a problematic system of views. When I say problems of values, I'm talking about problems of categories and commitments, categories of priority, and categories of human possibility. Well, that's what values are. Categories are commitment, categories, priorities, and categories of human possibility. In other words, you're committed to. What you put first in your life dictates your human possibilities. People have records and they have books. And people that expect the enemy to educate their children cannot have many possibilities. People that have the image of the enemy on the wall as a model of human beauty can't have many possibilities. And people that accept the hero of the enemy, the hero of the oppressor, as the standard by which they should live their lives can't have many possibilities. I hope you're listening. Do you understand? So what we have here is the need to understand and embrace the value system that gives us the correct standards, the correct priorities that we must have to enhance our human possibilities. So yes, greetings, Atukanan, so you see what they say there, culture. He says, when you've got your culture, the culture's intact. He says, so what we have here is the need to understand and embrace our value system that gives us the standards, correct priorities that we must have to enhance our human possibilities. That's what culture gives you. It gives you the correct value system and the correct standards and correct priorities that we must have to enhance our human possibilities. So human nature is human possibility. You can talk about evil being human nature and people lying and doing wrong and wanting to control each other as being human nature, but that's a capitalist and a bourgeois concept of man and woman. That is a historical, limited conception. At one time in human history, people shared and didn't even think about individualism. So this is the difference between African culture and European cultures. They helped each other and did not consider it a burden. So if, as Marx said, humans were considered it a burden, if humans were once positive, then they can be again in the right context. For what humans have done, humans do again. So what this shows more than anything else is human possibility, the possibility for good and bad, the possibility for tragedy and triumph, possibility of struggle and betrayal of struggle. And what you have to do is to make sure you have the positive, is to have the correct views and the values that give you the commitments and priorities that enhance your human possibility. And what we as African people must do is sit down and work out ourselves the 7 fundamental areas of culture with the kind of values and views they to have. But before I turn to that 7 areas of culture, it tells us which kind of culture we must have. Let's look again into the whole argument what you're going to do about jobs, what you're going to do about education, what you're going to do about housing. This is called by some nuts and bolts, concrete activity, working with the masses, organizing the masses. But you see, all of that is possible. In the final analysis, when you go out there and you really have a clear-cut program, strong ideology by which not only you can judge the people by their history, but judge yourself. What is needed then is a system of values by which you yourself can hold yourself. And then the message to a mirror, praising and criticizing as the context and practice tomorrow. So I hope you listen to that. So when you've got culture, you've got a value system you can judge yourself by, and you can judge your community by. And you can hold a mirror up to to see, am I doing my culture? Is my priorities or my actions, are they correct? Are they demands? So let me get my pace. So what's needed is a system of values by which you yourself can hold yourself and the masses up to a mirror, praising and criticizing in the context. Practice demands. Without this, you cannot be successful as you might be. Also, about jobs or housing, the 2 or 3 problems. The first problem is that there are people who have jobs but don't go to them because they don't have the right value for them and for the work itself. There are people in the US, and they must be here too, okay, who should have access to college, who have access to college and go to college. They end up students' union playing cards and watching those shows, soaps in America, at a time when they should be in the library. Clearly, the value of education that they need. Say that blacks need housing, and this is so. But suppose that they have housing, but they don't maintain it because they don't have value for it. Because they don't feel a stake in it. Because they don't know what it is or what it means to do for themselves and act as if they are leaving a legacy for 1,000 years. You must have a value for that. And you must have a plan, a plan. It must be an educated value. Or if it doesn't come from the skies. No, ideas don't come from the skies. They come from the social context which we owe our existence. Here it's clear that what we must do is break that the dominant society has on us and has on our mind. We have a culture, but struggle and change demand a national culture. So popular culture everybody does. It goes to the theatre, goes to the cinema. It's not really, values are not really there. Does that. But we must have a national value system, African value system, because that will underpin everything we do. The great thing we're going through now is a out of the popular culture around us. And whether we talk about middle class popular culture with the umbrella and the derby and the fish and chips, or whether we talk about working class culture that really doesn't want to respect the demand of doesn't want to respect intellect and the need for study. We are talking about a form of culture, of values. So why is it that in every place we go, and this is not just in Britain, it's in the United States, the active community has one of the opinions intellectual that you can imagine. We've got a lot of intellectuals who speak but do not act in their own interest or our interests, and others who betray us. Still are those who, commit class suicide, identify with the struggle, aspirations of masses, by its best minds. So our people, as W.E. White said, will be saved by its best minds, those both capable and committed. So let me say, in USA, W.E. remember him and Marcus had a bit of a friction, but Du Bois wanted to be the leader, He came there and he really started to lead the people. But when you had this talented 10th were the intellectuals, and they believed in that class thing. So they rather focus on the middle class than on the people. Focus on the people. So sometimes, if you're not grabbing your culture, you start to do with your class. It's what a pretty job, have a nice house, a pretty car, which is cool. You must be connected to your culture or connected to your community. If you're not committed to your community, connected to it, you're probably not going to go far. You must be grounded in your community. That is the key, your culture. So let me find the page. And as if to say you must commit cultural suicide, as Abdul Clark said, you mean you must come away from your class. Your class is not the important thing. Because if you're just a middle class, you will pick up with Asians, Europeans, and everybody else. So that's what we're going to do. But from your own people, culture, you must connect your culture. So it's good to have leaders with intellect, but to be able to connect with their people, not think that they're superior than their people. So, yeah, and if the intellectuals are a threat, it's simply because they are a threat, and that is all. It is because they are alienated from their own humanity, their own people, and their own interests. And their need is not simply to condemn or criticize them, but also to ask themselves, how can we change them? How can we absorb them and use them for our strength, rather than turn them to the enemy so that he can use them against us? So, if we surrender, then without a struggle, we can't blame the white man or the oppressor. It's important to note here that when I talk about the white man, I'm talking about every white man. As Malcolm talking about those who oppress us, and surely those who do so should listen. A critical need then is to redefine the world in our image and our interest. We need to be able to set up standards by which we can build a new culture and enhance our human possibilities, standards of beauty, standards of love, standards of education, standards of sisterhood and brotherhood, standards of marriage, standards of female relationship, even standards of war and struggle. We African people must sit down. There arises in that among our people, we have so many philosophers. They speak so easily and uncritically on so many things. They say, you can't tell me anything. I've been through university, hard knocks. They confuse knowing with being. Knowing with being. They go from one subject to another without even noticing it. They move from medicine to media without a pause. If you have a pain in your arm, book medicine, even if you have no degree. You can tell you your life without knowing you. Actually, they do know what's happening in the black life, because again, they confuse knowing with being. So he's not just to be a black person. You have to understand, you have to know what's going down. That's what he's saying there. Especially, you know what's happening in the black life. They confuse knowing with being. Think being black is knowing black. We must, however, study concrete situations, study ourselves, and make a clear distinction between common sense and greetings Nero, and greetings Sharon. We need a value system now. And if we don't teach the value for critical and rational thought, we can't break through the cultural and imprisonment of the oppressor. Conditions create consciousness. Tell me where you live, and I'll tell you what you think. The reason you speak British English instead of Chinese is because you're in London. The reason you perceive of the world the way you do is because you're in a white Western world that you created in the image of us. So we are shaped in the culture that we walk in. It has to be created in a back. So we're always shaped by the cultural context that we are brought up in there. So we need a value for that. And don't teach the value for critical intellectual thought. You can't break through the cultural encirclement of traditions to create consciousness. Tell me where you live and I'll tell you what you think. The reason we have problems with children who think their mothers are ugly, bulgaric, or anybody else white you know is pretty, because you live in a context that standard of beauty, regardless of how problematic. So popular culture, as opposed to national culture, is the unconscious reaction to everyday life. But national culture is the self-conscious, collective, and practice that creates itself, sustains itself, and celebrates itself, and introduces itself into history and humanity. And the people must do that on 7 basic levels. On the level of history, on the level of religion, the level of social organization, economic organization, political organization, creative production, your art, your music, your literature, and finally your ethos, the collective psychology. You get the result of creativity, action, and other 6 levels. So your ethos is basically, ethos of a people or yourself is based on those 7 levels of culture. And what are those levels of culture? Let me go over them again for you. People build up 7 basic levels of history, religion, social organization, economic organization, political organization, creative production, and also your ethos. It is a psychology. It's very important to understand when we have a collective consciousness, that's when we will reunite. At the moment, we do not have a collective consciousness, and we find it hard to unite. But when we have a collective consciousness, it will be easy. Because remember the 3 I's: our identity, our interest, and our intentions. If you know what your identity is, you'll know what your interests are. If you know what your interests are, that will show your intentions, your behavior, your actions. So always remember the 3 I's: identity, interest, and our intentions, our actions. So, how should we look at our history? We can decide after defining history, what is history? Is it some dates, some names, dead people? Is history what it is? A record of people in the process of shaping the world in their own image and interests. That's what history is. To struggle and record, not the record alone, not the struggle alone, but the struggle and record of a people in the process of shaping the world in their own image and in their own interest. And struggles take precedence because it's what we do that is recorded, and even what we do not do. So thus, we must study our history and recognize how important it is. We must appreciate our history, and nothing else is more important than this appreciation, and it is to understand what history is all about. History is important to us for several reasons. First of all, it is our contribution to our self-understanding. As Frantz Fanon said, or Frantz Fanon argued, everybody in the final analysis has to ask himself 3 fundamental questions. Who am I? Am I really who I am? And am I what I ought to be? Who am I is not to ask your name or your address in London or Bristol or wherever you live. It's not that kind of who you are. The question is the one, am I in history and society? When the rest of the nations of the world assemble and talk about what they have done, how shall I identify myself? That is what the historical question is. Who am I? Am I really who I am? Is to ask, do I admit that sometimes I wear a mask in my job to get along with my boss? I wear a mask in the street so people won't identify me as a radical or too progressive. I wear a mask wherever I go because European demands a mask if you want to succeed in society. So you have a black skin, mask, as Fanon says, for society forces you into a mask wearing. So you've got to ask yourself, am I really who I am? Do you know who you are? You're not who you say you are, i.e., I'm an African man or woman. It is good to identify oneself as such, but there is more. Who are left after the daily attacks on your claimed identity. Once you see you're an African, you want to walk with you through your daily life and see when you get home and see what is left of your claim of really who I am. And the third question is, am I all I ought to be? This is now the time for me to stop shutting and giving excuses for not doing what I can do. I think we can do what we dare to do. But that is a great part means being all we ought to be. We don't do all we ought to. We are the same people that we say we are, and we're not really as revolutionary and progressive as we want to be. Am I all I ought to be? Is also I have actually invested. I'm actually invested in my struggle, in the liberation struggle for a higher level of human life. The way that I should. If I can't answer correctly, then I need to transform myself. This is the Afrocentricity Bookman Show, and we are reading the book, Our Story. And it's chaptered by Malala Karega on culture and struggle. We need to overturn ourselves. That is what Cabral means when he said the greatest battle, regardless of the obstacles that the enemy puts in our path, is the battle against ourselves, against that which is in us, which is a contradiction to our best values and the choice we made. We made a choice to have a new life. We made a choice to struggle for liberation and a higher level of human life. We made a choice to step back onto the stage of human history as a free, proud, and productive people. We made a choice to speak our own special truth to the world, to be again, Egypt was the light of the world. We made that choice now, but we have values to judge ourselves by. So that when we talk about self-understanding, we study history, and history gives us a record of what we've done. Don't mystify history. Sometimes we don't understand history. We see people picture on the wall and dates and think that's the whole of history. We must understand that history is an ongoing process. When we talk, we make history. I mean, thinking is history. Acting in a march is history. Organizing the masses is history. Not just the remembrance and recitation of dead kings and names. You can't just call it Zinga's name as a slogan. It's knowing what Zinga stands and stood for in the struggle. African people against enslavement and colonization of the Portuguese. Seen as such, it becomes a model to emulate. History makes us know ourselves, makes us know ourselves in terms of being a part of the African world. Regardless of whether you're from Trinidad or Tobago, whether you're from Canada or from the USA, regardless of whether you're from Martinique or Mozambique, you're African. And we have got to understand ourselves in history as a part of a world African community. Another thing is when you ask yourself, who are you? in terms of where you fit into human history. We are an African people, heirs of Egypt, greatest civilization of antiquity. But no rescue and reconstruction is more important than the rescue and reconstruction of Egyptian civilization. For Egypt is our classical civilization, the way that Greece is for the white man. You can't start a class in England, France, United States, and Canada, or any other white country without beginning with the Greeks. The Greeks are in maths, architecture, and other disciplines as the paradigm of the body. Where is our paradigm? And we know that Egypt taught the Greeks. We know Egypt taught few Jew and Gentile. We know that we don't have to be taught their maths because we introduced it. We're the ones who taught what was good, beautiful, taught music and agriculture, geometry, architecture, medicine. We're the ones who did that. And it doesn't make any difference whether Europeans make movies or pretend they created Egypt when they couldn't even build a house. When Egypt was at a high height in the Old Kingdom. It doesn't matter whether the European says it or not. What matters is denying Africans their history. Greetings, Knox. There is no witness like history. History is our witness to our greatness and challenge. And you're a challenge when you want to understand yourself, not yourself. How? Why am I? A pyramid builder living in a council house. History must make us question ourselves and measure ourselves by what we ought to be. Am I really who I am? Am I who I ought to be? Got to ask that question. We are African people, and we're the heirs of a great legacy, and we must bear the burden and glory of our history, as Dr. Mary M. Thune taught us. It is a burden and glory to African history. Glory is what we achieve, and the burden is our liberation struggle to free ourselves from the European world, the grotesque grip of racism, capitalism, and sexism. The major contradiction of our time. That is our burden, and we have to understand and take that very seriously. But history is also a corrective means for the racist myths that the white man sown in the world for himself, claiming he invented everything, including the air. We have to challenge that and demonstrate how we contributed to the forward flow of human history. You have to become part of our life, and you have to put it into your curriculum and insist that it be taught in the European school system. For you must compel the European school system to reflect reality. The culture that you see in the world is not a white culture. It is human culture in its finest form. You look at London, you see that the European didn't build it all by himself. You look at the United States, see that it is a multinational project. Black people, brown people, red people, yellow people built that. And you have to force the European to recognize and conceive that the country is a multicultural construction. And you can't just claim he started everything as if he were God. Suppose you don't know what you did. Suppose you can't even think of what you did. Suppose you suffer, so many Africans, from historical amnesia. Not only do you claim 50 different identities and give yourself more humanity than you feel incorrectly, your own history doesn't give you. History gives us a sense of humanity. We will never have it. We will never have without it. We repeat that. History gives you a sense of humanity. We will never have without it. The self-hatred you see, a man in the street or a billionaire singer in Los Angeles involves in from the ignorance and disappreciation of our history. I say that our humanity depends on our history. We've got a man in the United States, a well-known singer, multi-millionaire, who nevertheless took a knife to his nose and cheeks and slashed his flesh in order to look like the people created pathology in him. Hope you listen to that. You might know who he's speaking about. I think he's passed away now. So it just shows you, even if you're a multi-millionaire, the pathology is still there in us. So let me repeat, he said, we've got a man in the United States, a well-known singer, multi-millionaire, nevertheless knife to his nose, cheeks, and slashed his flesh in order to look who created pathology in him. And what he was doing was not simply identifying with the European, as if white is some sort of magic color. He was identifying with history, gave him a sense of humanity. He didn't think like that. So this is the BOOKMAN Show. And if we listen to this show, we mentioned this a few weeks ago, is that your history is your humanity. Your history shows your struggle, shape the world, or how, your interest, and shows you that you're a human. But when your history is denied you, it takes away your humanity. So sometimes we say that we want to be like somebody else, believe that we're not human, because we haven't got no humanity. Sometimes we want to take on the culture and the looks and the hair, stuff like that, from other people, because they've got humanity and we haven't. So we try to grasp their humanity. Or what he was looking for was a way to establish an historical anchor, to stand on something. And he believed looking white offered that. He believed that white folks' history made their humanity intelligent. And he opted to take something of that history because he didn't know his own. How can we walk in the pale shadows of our oppressor, the latecomer, if we knew our own history? Why would we have to borrow a God and borrow a derivative religious text if we already knew our original text? What is it in the new derived text that we don't already have in Egypt? You can't show me the Judeo-Christian text any value that Egypt has not already written. And we're talking about something the missionaries brought. We're not talking about something anthropologists stumbled on. We're talking about black people wrote themselves. We're talking about our Nile Valley civilization. We're talking about our other classical African civilizations. And with that, we don't need to stop at Egypt. We can go to Mali, Ghana, Songhai. We can go to other places of African classical civilization and learn what our ancestors have achieved and make it part of not only something we refer to, but something that becomes a full and living part of our daily lives. So culture is living. Culture is dead. Remember, our ancestors are in us. We've got the same DNA, we walk on the same ground, we've got the same melanin, the same mind, the cells. We are our ancestors. So what they did, great. They created some of the greatest civilizations. But sadly, after the Berlin Conference, 1884 to 1885, some people who went there, France, Britain, Belgium, Germans, Italians, Spanish, you name it, there was a race war on us. They attacked Africa continent from the side. And they were losing battle after battle. But then they developed a machine gun, which like 100 bullets a second. That's how they conquered Africa. People said, how did they conquer Africa? They launched a race war on us. The only people didn't realize race war. When they had weapons of mass destructions, that's how they managed to conquer Africa, fully conquer, which we are still fighting to get over today. But these are the things history teaches us. That's what we have to understand. Right, so he's saying, why do we need to follow religious texts? people when we created it. The people who get the religious text from, we taught them the religious text in the first place. When you understand your history, you'll understand these things. Why should we pick up remnants from the periphery of our culture when we can just pick up our culture and have a lot? People are feeding us stuff from the periphery of our culture, and we're accepting it. But they give us something of real importance, but just be on culture. And then we've got the full bag, we've got the full kit and caboodle, as they say. And we continue. After all, what do we go back to history for? Surely it's not because we are atavists, and not because we are so much in love with the past that we can't handle the present. Admittedly, our people who live like can't handle the present, so they exchange it for the past. We're not talking about that, I assure you. Go back to the past for 3 fundamental reasons. First, is to learn its lessons. Second, absorb its spirit. And third, to emulate its achievement. Let me repeat that. Why do we go to history? First, to learn the lessons. Because if you don't learn the lessons from history, you keep making the same mistakes. And then secondly, to absorb the spirit. We can absorb the spirit of our ancestors, what they did. They had spirit. Great ideas on everything. And thirdly, to emulate its achievements. We need to look back to our great ancestors. They are great what we can be. And we can emulate what they did. We don't look at our ancestors who are like, lazy liars. Yeah, we don't look at our ancestors, but we look for the models of greatness from our ancestors. And then we can emulate it. We need to teach our children. We need to teach our children not to be shy. Parents, you got to teach the children that come from a great line of great, and you need to emulate what they did. This is what we tell our children every day. History has a number of lessons. If we do not learn them, we end up being damaged by our disappreciation. We end up being damaged, or we seek to absorb its positive and creative spirit, to absorb the spirit of Garvey, his positive creative spirit, to absorb the spirit of Garvey, his struggle to advance the struggle, to absorb the spirit of Malcolm X, Mary Carr Bethune, and Zika. It is in fact to absorb the spirit of liberation and the struggle for a higher level of human life. These are the people who showed you an adaptive vitality, refused to concede defeat, even against overwhelming odds. People who talk about how they were outnumbered. We are in the struggle. We've always been outnumbered. At the very beginning, when we came over here, that was a statement of being outnumbered. We've got to work with what we've got. This is the lesson of indivisible, of our invincible spirit and great achievement. Pick yourself off the ground, and your air, struggle and victory. Who said that this is going to be easy? It's going to be a tea party. Do you expect the oppressor to hug you and kiss you and tell you, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've done this to you"? He will not say, "What I'm going to do to you now is give you a country. I treated you like that." It's madness to believe you will really concede. Everybody knows that when I said that you can see how unrisky such thinking is. But sometimes people act as if the European president has the moral capacity for self-correction. And I'll say, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that to you." So you cannot appeal to people's morals if they've got no morals. So do not appeal to them and pray and cry and stuff like that, because you never get where you need to be. Yeah? So the oppressor is responsible for enslavement, but we are ultimately responsible for our liberation. No matter what we say about the oppressor, in the final analysis, the people that cannot save itself is lost. Let me repeat that. In the final analysis, a people cannot save itself, lost forever. We are our own liberators, and we must consciously pick ourselves off the ground, wipe the blood off our faces, and then dare to continue the struggle. We move now to religion, second aspect of culture. So the first part of culture is history. The second part is religion. The second aspect of culture is religion, spirituality. We need a new kind of spirituality. We don't need to look up the sky. We have to make a distinction here between spirituality and spookism. Spookism is an intense emotional appreciation for unseen forces, to whom we turn our destiny, our daily lives, and hope something doesn't happen that we can't handle. You see, there are a lot of people waiting for the chariot to come, but the chariot will not come. Do you understand that? What did Marcus Garvey say? Garvey said, God made the world and he turned it over to us. Man and woman have dominion over the world, must cultivate out of what they want and need for themselves. Nature first made us what we are, but we make ourselves what we want to be. You start with biological dialogue, then black people must do that. We are the gods and goddesses in our own right. And the major religious texts, including those in Africa, teach that we are in the image of God. People say, I want to be like God. But what does that mean? The first and most definitive image of God is the Creator. If you read the oldest text in the world, which is not the Bible, the Hosea, to writings of the ancient Egyptians, God Ra stepped out to space, and there was nothing there, nothing at all. Because God in the Nile Valley, Menera, Natasio, God in the Nile Valley was self-created. He created himself when there's nothing there. So he is self-created. And that's what we need to think ourselves. Our ancestors didn't write this text like the Bible so we can sit down and just laugh at them and tell some stories. They told so we can use it to learn. Self-creation is what we can do. We create ourselves if that's what we want to do. Or we continue being oppressed and crying and moaning. We need to do self-creating. When our ancient texts, we need to understand what they actually mean and what we can do with it. It's not just to have some fun or to say, look at what we need. They're there for us to understand. And when God rises up, he creates a ground on which to stand, and then creates the whole world. He didn't say, the brothers sometimes say, hey, I've got nothing to work with. They're beating me down. I don't even have opportunities. Ra conceived in his heart. Ancient Egypt was the mind. Ra conceived in his heart and mind through creative intelligence, and he brought the world to be. There's no miracles, only works. History is the record of struggle and work in one form. I mean, we don't talk history if we don't talk reality. And if we're going to talk spirituality, let us actually spiritual. Or let's look about an active spirituality. Another thing we have to do in terms of spirituality is to make sure that our religion is socially relevant. By that, I mean, make sure the religion has a social dimension to it, as well as a spiritual one. Malcolm Luther King said, a religion that claims to be concerned with man's soul and not with his social self is a religion that is moribund and bankrupt and doesn't deserve to be as deep. Okay, So Malcolm, let me say it again. Martin Luther King said, a religion that claims to be concerned with man's soul and not with his social self is a religion that's moribund and bankrupt. Doesn't deserve practice. Malcolm says, I wouldn't worship a God who wouldn't let me, encourage me to fight for my people. No God, he said, no religion will ever make me forget my struggle and my commitment to my people. You must remember this. If your religion doesn't make you struggle, it's a bankrupt religion. Because you know what? God doesn't need your help. Other humans do. Unless you think your life, unless you link your life to other humans, your life is not living. So sometimes we use religion as an antidote or as an anesthetic. Because I know one Pepper is saying to me that he went to his brother and said, yeah, we're doing a celebration. He said, no, I can't go, I'm a Muslim. He said, well, why can't you go? The celebration is about culture. Oh, no, I'm a Muslim. So the idea that these other religions stops from being real, it's crazy. The Muslim religion is our culture. But you don't say them talking about culture, but an African wants to come, an Arab wants to come. For some reason, he thinks he needs to leave his African culture. You think God was against African culture? We really need to. There is no miracle. History is a record of struggle and work in one form. I mean, we don't talk history if we don't talk reality. And if we're going to talk spirituality, it needs to be an active spirituality. What we have to do in terms of spirituality is to make sure that our religion is socially relevant. Other humans do, and unless you think your life or your link to other humans, your life is not worth living. The real religion of ancient Egypt is always refined in practice. African morality is practice. That's why when the European first read it, he said that he did not recognize his high spiritual character. He had reduced ethics to abstract philosophy and of just Sunday ritual. He didn't realize that there is nothing more spiritual than righteousness, righteous relations with other human beings. More spiritual than righteousness, nothing more spiritual than righteous relations with other human beings. So he said the European has made religion ritual on a Sunday, not about your connection with other people, living ma'at, true justice, reciprocity, harmony, balance. Because the African focused on human beings rather than spirits and abstracts. The European felt that he was low level of spirituality. But if you're into spooks, then social practice and ethics seem strange. Humans are the center of African ethics. Even the Christians have got a say in art. How can you love God? You have seen and hate the brother and sister you see every day. I repeat, it's not God that needs your help. God is good, remember. It's another brother and sister that needs your help. That's why the ancient Egyptians taught preference for the poor and the vulnerable, and were the first to teach, give bread to the hungry, water to the thirsty, clothes to the naked, hope to those without one. Be a father to the orphan, and a husband to the widow, without exploiting any one of them. Remember, in Kemet, there was 42 ethics, or laws of Ma'at. And they said, I have not killed, I have not robbed. And they always spoke about, I gave these to the weak, give these to the hungry. That's where the Bible comes from one of our ancestors. Greetings, Jendaya, greetings. So, the ancient Egyptians taught preference and the vulnerable. And we're the first to teach God, give bread to the hungry, to the thirsty, and clothes to the naked, and a boat to those without one. Be a father to the orphan and a husband to the widow, without exploiting any one of them. Look, church does where they exploit the children, and they don't do anything about it. what was taught in the old days. That's the wisdom of our forefathers, our foremothers. We must learn that and walk in the righteousness so we can hold a just society. An Egyptian text also said in the book of Ani, teach that if you're righteous, if you do what is right, you'll reach the place you're going. It says, walk in the very way of righteousness. You'll reach the place we are going. Whether you're among many or the few, you'll find friends and family, and all wish to be granted. So African culture teaches a lot about your character. No matter where you go, you must have good character. At the moment, unfortunately, because these religions kind of like distorted our culture, we think church now is about the church, you get a nice suit and you get a nice watch. Our culture taught that is about doing good, do the right thing. Like this thing, do the right thing. That was our culture. The Wasiya, the sacred text from ancient Egypt, also says there is no good deed done except deed done for those who need it. You must give people who need it. And if you really want to be religious, really spiritual, then you must struggle and bring the world to life, or bring a new life into the world. This is what it means by liberation. See, the humanity is deformed by the system in which we live. And this is your religious duty and your spiritual duty to struggle against that. Not to wait for charity and hope that something will happen that you can't handle. Not to wait for a freak miracle. For you are a miracle. If you don't make a miracle, it won't happen. People, in a final analysis, must struggle for a new world. And you know, there is a deep strain of spirituality, and even religiosity among African people. We're the most religious people in the world. And hands are bodies in the world. If anybody knows anything, or any other body, any more people more religious than blacks, you need to raise your hand and tell me who these people are. We need to find these people. If you know any more people more religious than African people, raise your hand during the question and answer period and give it to me. So I can put this in my notes. Otherwise, remember, it takes seriously a lot of time in the emotional level. But it's not real. And it's not in practice. Practice proves everything. No matter not how many books you have read on swimming, sooner or later you get into the water. No matter how many claims you make about your religion, your spirituality, or your religious, sooner or later you demonstrate it in practice. So you have got to have a new kind of approach to religion. And you've got to take religion and use it as an instrument of social change. God is on our side. History is on our side. What are we waiting for? The third area of culture is social organization. So the first one was history, second one was religion. Now we're talking about social organization. The African people wish to struggle has got to be restructured. The struggle must be made strong. Got to move from the nuclear family to the extended family values of the African society. That is to say, the nuclear family is an individualistic consumer unit. European broke down family so that the family could not resist the challenges. One of the main reasons that the nuclear family is stressed as much is that people can learn to be competitive with each other and be isolated consumers that are vulnerable to any kind of manipulation. And this teaches us a negative concept of human personality. In Western philosophy, everything starts, even in religion, with the individual. They teach us that you've got to be saved by yourself, but in truth, you've got to be saved by somebody else, because your salvation depends on the liberation of the people. Listen to these people. So religion is not a personal thing. It's a collective. Ubuntu. Not an empty ritual or a substitute for worship and work and struggle. In a word, it depends on a real social thing. But so is your identity. Western philosophy, we're taught that the individual is everything. The early philosophers of the 17th century in Europe were dedicated to giving rise to the individual. But is that the way we need to live? What does this do? Does it produce a negative, aggressive, and alienated person? In the United States, I don't know if you've got it here, but it seems that people would come here and a lot of things to do from the USA. He says there's a saying, me and you against the world. I'm number one. Why am I and you against the world? In fact, I might not even need you in such a conception. But what is this thing? The identity of the individual translated from the concept of the world. He or she owed he or she owned their very existence. In Africa, the concept of religion and philosophy, fundamental principle governing our conception of a person is I am because we are, and because we are, therefore I am. Again, Ubuntu. Also, in Dinka society in the Sudan, there is a word Sieng, which means both morality and harmony. Sieng is spelled C-I-E-N-G. In other words, you can't even the moral without being in harmony. Brothers and sisters, it's a strong concept, and you can hear it without thinking of how beautiful it is. The point is that a person is not abstracted from the context to which he or she owes his or her identity. In other words, I am strong. If I am strong, it's because of you. In a word, I have meaning because of you. If I'm a leader, it's because of you. If I'm a teacher, it's because you dare listen to me and believe I have something to say. I get my essential meaning from you, and that is my relations with you. I have meaning with coming in here and being able, what I'm doing in response to you, to being an instruction with you. It is an African concept, and we must deal with that. We must deal with not only in terms of our social construction of the family, but especially in terms of the male and female relationships. We've got to deal with the whole question of sexism among African people. African British, no matter who they are, and African people in the diaspora as well, as on the continent. We don't talk about sexism because we think something that European engages in, but it's not us. We know what I mean, but we don't need that kind of distinction or discussion. Some brother will say, "What are we to do? Even that is not free. We must discuss the issues on it. We must talk about man and woman relationships, because first men and women relationships are species of relationships. You don't even have to learn. You need to relate. I didn't have to learn that I need a woman. One day I just thought how I need a woman. I had this feeling like something I just thought, and now I need a woman. That woman is missing, and I moved in that direction. There was a species compulsion to do that, and it's so important that when you don't have it, you feel as if you've lost a arm. Now people can say, "I don't need a woman, I don't need a man," but that's not really so and so. It's a defensive process. So in the USA, is it nothing going on at the red? Those are shoots came out. I don't need a man. Where did that come from? Did it come from us? It's not in this culture. It's not from our culture. All I did really was to kind of create friction and problems in our families. Second reason male-female relationships is so important is because of the fundamental humanizing relationship. How can I tell you that you're a beast or not? Sorry, I can tell you whether you're a beast or not by the way you treat your woman. I can tell you whether you're a kitten in a human body by how you relate to your man. We are humanized in society. We become human because we become human beings because we are born. But we become human persons in society and in social relationships, especially man and woman. That is why sometimes women say to men, "Stop pawing me," because the man is acting like a brute, a beast. Thus, when people say to a man, "You're brutal," in a relationship, they're talking about setting or acting like an animal. And you can see most definitively the way that someone treats a woman. I'm talking mainly to men. But sexism is a patriarchal society, like the Western white society, and it is essentially the form of relationships of men. Of women. I've got a patriarchy, the rule of man. Now, some people might argue that is ought to be. That's the way it ought to be. But you can't justify that. If you're fighting for freedom for the European, how can you justify freedom for a woman? Sexism means thought and practice used to establish and justify unequal, exploitative, and oppressive relationships. So whatever you're trying to justify and establish unequal, exploitative, oppressive relationships, any relationship that shows disrespect for human personality simply because of gender, got a problem. And you clearly don't stand for freedom. You've got to stand for freedom and your understanding, your price, your perception of what it really is. This is the Afrocentricity Bookman Show every Sunday between 4 and 6. I'm reading a book called Our Story, which is lectures which was done in 1987 by many great teachers. This chapter is by Malala Karenga. He's talking about culture and struggle. I'm saying you need a new kind of relationship, especially among the diaspora Africans. I don't want to take too much latitude here, but I think that's because African American and other Africans in the diaspora and on the continent. I think the struggle we waged throughout Africa America history in slavery and civil rights period, as well as the Black Power period, required a cooperation and a level of equality that has not happened to the same extent in other societies. Do rescue if I'm wrong, but the dialogue and struggle around this issue has gone on for far too long in African American society, and even though we haven't solved our problem, it's not going to come here and claim that. It's not coming here and claim that. It has been a long, productive struggle, especially when you look in comparison to other African societies. When you look at the heroines of African America, you will find that in African America, you have an unlimited number of African American women whose contribution is indispensable to wherever we are now. You can't talk about the struggle against slavery without talking about people like Harriet Tubman, Jeremy Truth, Ellen Craft. You can't talk about abolition and Reconstruction without talking about people like Francis Hopkins Hopper and Anna Julia Cooper. You can't talk about the civil rights movement without talking about Rosa Parks, Fannie Lou Hamer, Ruby Robinson, and Ella Baker. Omit these, and you don't have history. In many places, talk about Black history by just talking about men, not because women have done things, but because men not giving them due for having done it. But such balance between men and women is, I think, more developed in history, African American history. It's called discourse. I always remember when I first understood this. I went to this 20, probably 30 years ago, and I went to a Black history conference. I was sitting down there, and one sister stood up there, the question and they pitched on the stage. Every on stage stage was a man. And Sister Sullivan says, where's the women? And that's the first time I realised that we're one side of the coin. We go together. We've got one side. So the fact that there's all men there means that we have this kind of European concept that man is the boss. And women there, women, we're side by side. We've got to be side by side. I mean, the saying behind the man is a woman is a European saying. In Africa, beside the African man, beside the woman. You just have a look at the statues in Africa. Well, it's Asian, well, in Africa, standing beside the man, and the man beside the woman. European culture is a man and a woman behind the man. It's our culture. So we need to kind of shake up that, you know? Together. If we're going together, we're going to school. Okay. We need to work out our social construction. And I said, this book said before that where we need to get to in life, we need to start living it now. So we get there, we're ready. Because we're ready. We want to get somewhere and then start to think about how do we act. You need to start acting that way now. So you get there, you're already living. Yeah? Okay. So, even though we haven't solved all our problems, let me go down, my apologies. In many places, I can talk. Black history is not just to talk about men, not because of women, but because men keep them the Jew for having done. Such balance between men and women is, I think, more developed and prevalent in African American history and political discourse. I think we need a new kind of relationship, a fundamental sense of human equality that compels us to practice social equality in the most radical, life-affirming way. And we are to build quality relationship. We have to build them self-consciously. First, we must have a common values. Culture does. So you can't start out with somebody totally different from you and then expect that you're going to shape them in a miraculous way. You've got to get involved with people who at least share values with you. You must have common views, but you should also have a clear terms. Often women don't set terms at the beginning of the relationship, but you must have the minimum and a maximum terms in the relationship. We're talking about other values, and we're talking about values in our relationship. And when you do this, you're talking about cultural revolution. A lot of times people get involved in talking about the struggle in South Africa, or about revolt in Brixton, or about the struggle or revolution in general. And then they forget that revolution is made by people. And the basic criterion for judging any revolution is the quality of relationships it creates and sustains. Relationship is the key determinant of the quality of human life. I can tell the quality of the life in your house or in your society by the relationships you are involved in and the importance that you put a high level of quality in the relationship. Often when we talk about men and women, and I look for fighting in the street, organising, to the struggle and quality relationships, people say, brother, excuse me, struggle of men, my apologies, the struggle of women for equality, the struggle of women to be recognised as a fellow partner in love and struggle is the most fundamental struggle that we can emerge. Because without that, we will never be free. You can say that you'll be free, but you won't. You can be free in a society in terms of taking the power from somebody else. But you will never be free in a human terms unless you create a context in which all people, men and women, fully realize themselves. Process of human liberation is a reality rather than a rhetoric. Human liberation is a daily activity rather than something people just talk about on a ceremonial occasion. So this is the fundamental. I'm talking about how to deal with this on a relationship. To continue, we need two common values and clear terms. A woman and man sit down and talk about what they want. I know it sounds like it's too old or too old to some in a relationship. The tendency is to believe that if you love somebody, that will come out eventually. Not necessarily. Don't lie to yourself. We've lied for years. We're We have to speak truth. We have to speak our truth. We have to speak our feelings. We have to say to each other, this I need. This is the minimum I'll go for. These things I will not tolerate. No violence and lies, because it must be on everybody's agenda. You've got to stand down. I don't mean just physical violence. I'm talking about the mental violence. Calls a woman out of her name because she won't let the man tell her what to do when he wants it to be done. When she wants it to be done, or calls her matriarch. She will not concede to a man who doesn't have the moral capacity or willingness to think of something new or good to do. It is important that we are able to say these things. For if we do not say these things, we will never have a serious movement. We will always have a divided, weak movement. Man will always be insecure, at the possibility of betrayal. But the reality of this is that even in the worst circumstances, women are betrayed less than men. Even when they didn't get all that they're supposed to get, they were less traitorous to the commitment, or less traitorous to the struggle in history than men. So what's the testament of their commitment? I don't want to get into the issue of integration. If you look at how things are going, even there, women have wanted the best of men. So in the context of reconstructing our culture, we have to give special attention to building relationships between men and women based on a common view and values and a moral friendship. For friendship of men and women is key. I wouldn't travel with my wife if we weren't friends. I travel by myself and meet my mistress. So that's what people do. I travel by myself and meet my mistress. So because we are friends, it's normal, even natural, that I travel with her. Because we are partners, not only in love, but in struggle. And that's why we established order arrest me. They arrest her. I don't have to explain myself to her. She's right in the car with me. Do you understand that? We are arrested and captured on the same time, at the same time. We're at the same place. We understand the struggle, same terms. I don't spend my time answering the question, where have you been? Because she came with me. She stands with me. You must always have that kind of understanding. But a lot of the time, men are insecure for various reasons of history and social conditions. They really think they have to play the old K-band role, where they alone go out and get the meat, bring it back to the room and say, that's good. You know what I mean? Today, another kind of game to big hunt, and bring it down together. We're not talking about deer, antelope, buffalo, or animals. We're talking about a system of oppression, capitalism, racism, and sexism. We're talking about structural patterns of world scale, and a struggle against a system that requires the efforts of everybody. Another thing you need, in addition to a friend, is your relationship is a support system. In a word, you need an extended family. When I speak about extended family, I mean those not only who share your blood, but equally those who share your values. From simple blood talk and focus. After all, you cannot determine whose blood is whose in terms of relatives and enemies. When you take transfusions from the hospital, you don't ask whether it's your race relative, and you take it because you need it. Let's not do what Europeans do. Pretend blood is more magic, more some magic thing. What's important is peoplehood, culture, people committed to each other. And important, and united in struggle to build a better world for a new kind of human. And we need to constant struggle and constant renewal to build, excuse me, have a drink. This is the Afrocentric BOOKMAN Show. a chapter by Dr. Malala Karenga about struggle and culture. Everything is not going to be like what we want it to be always, but we have to be principled. We have to have principled relationships. We can eventually build it where we want. The next area of culture we need to work on is the economic foundation. And I think we all know we need to build economic foundation. My government here is helping to struggle against capitalism and struggle for socialism. But in the meantime, we've got to practice cooperative economics. When I'm talking about socialism, I'm talking about democratic socialism. About communism, about Marxism, or anything like that, which sacrifices the dignity of human being. Excuse me, under the banner of providing bread. I'm speaking about a socio-economic system which has at least 5 fundamental features. One, ownership, control over the means of production, i.e. productive rapid apparatus, raw materials, factories, natural resources. 2, an egalitarian distribution of wealth. Planned economy. 4, a political and economic democracy. Participatory. 5, an end of all forms of human alienation, especially class, race, and sexual alienation. When I talk about African socialism, people says you can't talk about African socialism. Really, there is only one socialism. That's not correct. It's Cuban socialism. It's associate socialism. It's a Chinese socialism. Thus, there can be an African socialism. But there can be no African socialism if we don't take ourselves seriously. Socialism is a world project. Everybody in the world that contribution to it. So the East Germans can do it, the Cubans can do it, the Chinese can do it, then why can't the Africans? What are conception of socialism? Or in our history, who pointed it out when he noted that socialism is the modern descendant of communalism. We have communal and communitarian societies before Marx. So it's not like we have to play brother or assist Europe. We must ask ourselves then, what is our own special way of talking? Shared social wealth. Socialism, in its most special way of talking, is about shared social wealth. Socialism is the most definitive form. That's shared wealth. What you have then is a collective ownership, control of means of production, and an egalitarian distribution of wealth. Basic principle that earth belongs to everybody. The Europeans stuck up sticks in the ground and water, sold it, and eventually got to the air. Ground. If structural changes are not made to the world economy. So what we've got to do is ask ourselves, how do we want to live? A self-conscious capitalist oppressor? Capitalism is not something to imitate. It's something that belongs to the dustbin of history. Again, it is important for us to begin to prepare to make a self-conscious contribution to how we want the world to look. And in terms of African socialism, we must define the essential aspects to be respect African experience. Second aspect is priority to the community as distinct from restrictions on the party, army, or other institutions. African socialism is and must be about communality, respect for person in community. So this is reflected in the concept of Sieg, Ujima, and Ujama. In the world, we're talking about mutual obligations based on the concept of shared future and shared history. Also, in African socialism, necessitates collective ownership, control of means of production. As I said, Likewise, it requires an egalitarian distribution of wealth, appreciation, essentiality of labour, and an ethical humanism. This places the person over the abstract doctrine of the iron laws of history. What we want to do in socialism is cultivate the flourishing person and move him and her person beyond simply the satisfaction of material needs into expanded spiritual development. African societies, or African socialism, seeks a context in which human person will become multi-dimensional. The way Imhotep, the ancient Egyptian, was multi-dimensional. Imhotep was a priest, philosopher, teacher, architect, prime minister. He was many things, and he did them all well. Why can't we have a similar multi-dimensional person? It is because capitalism restricts us to one area of life, because it dulls us in our conception of labour. We have labour but toil. The difference between labour and toil is that toil is deadening and dulling. A deforming labour is essentially purposeful activity directed towards self-creation, self-definition. Let me read that again. The difference between labour and toil is the toil is dead and dulling, a deformed and deforming labour done for simple survival and forgetting material necessity. But real labour is essentially purposeful human activity directed towards self-creation, self-definition, self-development, and a self-formation. I confirm myself what I do, and I teach, and my confirmation comes from your response to my teaching. I enjoy what I do. I do want just to quit. I don't want just to quit. In fact, I go overtime. If I were in a job that I did appreciate, as if it was a toil, I'd watch the clock. And then when it got there, I'd watch it, and I'll be left there. You run away because it is not really labour, it is toil. We run away from the most essentially human activity, and that is what labour is. We are alienated from our labour and alienated from the product of it, alienated from those around us, and we are supposed to be working on a project with us. And it's because capitalism makes us toil and prohibits our generation, our recognition to ourselves. Because capitalism makes us toil and prohibits our recognition of ourselves in our labour. An artist does the best. A doctor does her best. Nobody's does her best when they are free to create tools to recognise themselves in the process and product. People construct their daily lives in terms of labour, see it as self-defining, self-creating, and self-confirming. But those who are not controlled with labour, they won't escape from it. But it's really toil. In fact, it is the states. In fact, in the states, we call a job a slave because that is what we really feel we're in. Where it is dead and restraining character. We must then struggle against the system which sustains such deformation. The next area of culture is political organisation. Here I stand for nationalism and Pan-Africanism. I'm a nationalist because I owe my existence to my economy. I'm an African in America, but I am an African, and therefore I have to be concerned about Africa as a world community. Therefore, my Pan-Africanist Garvey said we need to organise politically. He said people without power and authority is a people without respect. Show me a people without power and authority, and I'll show you a people without respect. But show me a people without organisation, and I'll show you a people the world respects. With our abilities, no matter how strong we think we are, until we are organised, we're really not half of what we should. Malcolm always called a total unity organization. Everybody must organize around their own interests and then build a united front based on common interests. I organized in the 1960s for operational unity. I don't believe everybody ought to be in the same organization. In fact, I believe because nobody else, no other people in the world has one organization. In Britain, people don't have the same organization. Whites don't have. Whites don't only have organization. Why should black people only have organization? We have to organize people around their own interests. Wealthy mothers around welfare, doctors, lawyers, teachers around their own interests, farmers around their own interests. But in the final analysis, we need a black united. We need first of all in the world everybody organized around their own interests. In Asia, in Latin America, on the islands of the sea, we need black people organized where they are first. But secondly, we need a world organization of African people. Kwame Nkrumah proposed, which you know, and all African people goes beyond the organization of African unity. The OAU is linked in its own activities. The OAU is producing very little beyond resolutions and agreements. We are not trying to undermine its image of just we are talking about history. If you don't believe that you can rescue, if you don't believe it, you need to rescue people from wrong. I have said that the OAU is not used a document. Serious action it was written, it has striven to fight, not to break up. You can't run an organization like that. You have to do something of value, of historic and political significance. Also, I argue, African people can form a world organization. Africa is not just a continent, it is a world community. And until we form such an organization to represent the world community, we will be talking abstract. Talking about oppression in Naples, 1977, as the head of the African American delegation, I argue if Pan-Africanism mean anything, it must mean our unity, or unity and common subject of African people. They are. In programmatic terms, it should express itself in several ways. One, the International Congress of African People. Two, the diaspora studies being taught in African schools and universities. Three, the establishment of the Pan-African University in Africa. You see, we're still arguing about. And when I say arguing, it means debating. And this is how Pan-Africanism should express itself. My first argument at SFSTAC was that it had to be more than just a continental struggle. Second, that we won't have any be serious until we have one state at peace. Most progressive state to build is a Pan-African university. Excuse me. So that Pan-Africanism over Pan-African world can come and study how to cooperate, building, strengthening the world, African community. Let's say that there are many cooperatives in the world. And in Spain, there's a cooperative called Dragon. And the community, and everybody works within a cooperative. And the cooperative got a university. And it teaches the students, teach everybody how to work in a cooperative. So why don't we have a university to teach people to be Pan-Africanist? It's really hard to do. It's really hard to think about. So we need to have our whole education for purpose. It's no good us mimicking other people when it's not for us. Our universities and our schools before us, for our future. That's the only way to look at things. Okay. So, I also argue that African states have to teach African studies, just to teach African studies in the US. In every university of any repute in America, we have African studies, continental African studies. But the African universities don't have a diaspora studies. In the West or in diaspora, we have studies, black studies, but in Africa, do they have diaspora studies? They need to have that in Africa so they understand what the people have done outside Africa and how they were treated outside Africa. It's the only way we can understand each other. So that's a big point. Africa, you need to, or schools even, you need to have diaspora studies. Very good point. So I'm not going to play junior program to the continent of Africa, and the Africans who are really serious about our relationship don't want me to play junior program. That would be a cultural chauvinism. If we're going to be equal, then we have to do. They must do, and what they do, we must do. It's just how it should be. And it seems to me that it's time for the African countries to pool resources and build a Pan-African university. African nations need to build African university. I said last week, African nations need to come together and launch a satellite in space for our own nation. One head of state, at least, ought to be proposed that and begin to get the finance for it. So the concept of a African United States of Africa, Federated Africa, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter what the name is, yeah, is that each nation we have today will have a government, but Africa will have one head of president. We really need Africa to unite. The longer we don't unite, the more problems we're going to have. Africa needs to unite, but a lot of nations, they like the independence. And why they want independence? Because they've got this European concept that we must be individual. If they move back to themselves, back to Africa, that'd be right. And there could be a governor of their, what they call a nation today. Continue. Also, a skills bank. A skills bank is not just for the continent, but for the whole African world. We, African Americans, we are the most skilled, the third world people in the world, and yet our energies are not harnessed because there is no structure in which we can be integrated. Another thing we must do as Pan-Africans is to help free the rest of the African countries that are not as free as we are. You know, we're not saying we are really free ourselves, but certainly no one in here is bad enough to claim that we are in the same position as African people in South Africa. This is what Mandela came out with. This is a major struggle. And we are not only in South Africa, but also in Namibia. In fact, these are the key struggles of the century. Follow me. The Southern African and Namibian struggles are the key struggles of the century. Just the sharpness of the struggle of both race and class. People, class, as they want, but in your hearts and in your best mind, you know it's a race. The professor has drawn a clear line. It's actually appropriated because calls himself the African, i.e. African, which is the poor language. He's African. And he calls the African a Bantu. That is a historical white man, is a Boer. The white man is not an African. The white man is a Boer. Let's call him what he wants to say. Now, if you want to say I'm a citizen of South Africa, that's different. But you're not African in the historical and cultural and racial sense. Malcolm said it is not correct to say when one is born what determine his or her identity. He said a chicken born in an oven is not a biscuit. After Africa has 2 or 3 definitions. It's a racial definition, it's a geographical, continental definition, and it's a cultural definition. We're African in all 3 of these ways. Best the European claim is a geographical location, continentality, not nationality, cultural identity. Another reason the struggle in Southern Africa is so important is because of the various interests involved. What we have major geopolitical interests. Got to admit, geopolitical interests are not easily conceded. And European not just going to give up and clap his hands and say, I was wrong, please let me confess and throw myself on the mercy of black people, of the black cause. That will not happen in our lifetime. In our children, we must shelter such children. So what we have to do is to be honest, to concede that what we've got to do is prepare in this country, in the United States, for the war to come, Southern Africa, and struggle to persuade and compel Britain and the United States not to decide to intervene on the side of them. You see, the Europeans, regardless of the conversation they had with the ANC, are not going to sacrifice, give up their other Europeans over there without struggle. And the Europeans over there, the Boers, have made it clear that they present white civilization. They are crude and unrefined in their racism. But Europeans here and in the USA and in the US has a nice way of covering up racism. He now calls what he does Westernism. Whenever they are fighting against Iraq, Iraq or Iran or Africa, he say it is for Western civilization. He means white, but he says Western. This is the dialogue that is going on. It's going on about white people in their Africa because people don't want to say it like it is, like the boy saying, but it's the truth. It's just another way to say European or white. Actually, there is a racist concept in the first place called Western civilization, just white civilization. You know that they're talking about when the Native American group, the Puerto Ricans, and yet the Native Americans and Puerto Ricans are Western. To Hawaiians are Western, Mexicans. And whether you accept it or not, some Africans are now Western. This, however, is not conceded or considered. In fact, they have divided the world between white people and Eastern and West. Because we must remember in their books, they used to call themselves the white race. But they it wasn't kind of cool to say that, then they started to call themselves Western. But why aren't Western? Or why is they live in the West? So you can see it's another way, another common word, say that European white. I continue. So what we've got to do here, so what we've got here is racism that's conducted undercover. That is one of the reasons that often people cannot discern what's going on there. But European, mistake, racial, geopolitical, and so on, in obtaining white control and influence in South Africa. And is not going to just keep up without a struggle. The question then comes, what role do we play when and even before the struggle comes to a head? And what it seems to me, and even before the struggle comes to a head, it seems to me that there are several things that we can do. One of the most important in terms of long-term planning is that we begin to build this all-African and begin to discuss and decide on issues like this. In the meantime, certainly we can demonstrate our own countries and lobby and organize and make sure that no black soldier ever goes over there to protect the poor regime in the US. This means building a draft resistance movement which will ensure that no soldier ever goes over to another country to kill black people for the white people. We need to build our own movement in our own countries. Then we need to build Pan-Africanism. We need to build third world unity and common struggle. One of the most important things is to avoid inter-third world conflict. I want you all to know this because you're in the third world context. One of the easiest ways to divert our struggles is to have a struggle against other third world. Is this all the time in the United States? We seem to always have arguments against other third world people. There are complaints against Asian, Puerto Ricans, even though 3/4 of the Puerto Ricans are black. Blacks complain that the Koreans in the neighborhoods as well as Chinese. Just like we complain over here, some Asians. We seem to be the same here in Britain. The Indians are the main concern for blacks. A problem here. You've got two levels of struggle. You've got struggle against people of the other ethnic groups that are into you, and you cannot lie and say they're not. But you must ask, is there a class dimension to say this? And if it's not your interest, and if it's not in your interest, be diverted from that and keep your eye on the main source of the struggle, to rulers of the society, the European class. And when I say the European ruling class, I mean the white class, race class. Because race and class coincide. Nobody in the white ruling class is not of the same race. The argument is, yes, we've struggled. We've got to deal with the Native Americans. We don't just have any struggle with Native Americans, but we've got to talk to them and build struggle with them. But even if we have one with them, the argument is that that's secondary. And then that is the non-antagonistic struggle and should be solved non-antagonistically. But to struggle against capitalism, against racism, sexism, that is the struggle that we need to defeat. And the capitalism has to mean the defeat of the races. But it doesn't have to mean defeat another third world people. And it seems to me that we have to make that distinction. We have to make a distinction between a third world people as a people of ruling class people who act as a buffer for the ruling European people among those people. A lot of time, kind of racism you run into from the ruling class in those people. We have to do this. I know it's difficult, but we have to be very important. We've got to be, we're talking about not ending up having so many enemies. That one is neutral in the struggle that we're going on. Don't ever doubt it. So the question is not whether or not, or even if you don't like somebody, you can work with them and struggle with them against a greater opposition and enemy. Also, I'm for Pan-Africanism. And I'm not for third world unity and common struggle first and foremost. But it's also a third level of unity with other progressive people who are actually dissatisfied with the established order. And it is one of the most difficult things for nationalities to accept. And there can be progressive people among people who are actually of the ruling class, of the ruling race. That is difficult, and I can't give a long lecture on that because, given the evidence of history, I have reservations myself. But I know it's possible and necessary. It is a matter of coalition and of common struggle to change society. And we must understand that there is a possibility of that happening. We have to hold up that possibility. I think if we organise ourselves, dare to engage in principal struggle with other people who will respect us and join us in our struggle for human rights and a new form of human society. I don't have time to talk about production, so it has to do with writing, singing, playing, new music, writing new literature, and doing a new art, which is functional and collective and committed. I condemn the United States, the anti-male and anti-female music that comes to the music industry. It's changed somewhat. None of one time was so blatantly anti-black men and anti-black women, calling them freaks and freakoids and initiating British singers that came over singing some of the words, the most vulgar lyrics that you can imagine. And some of them argue against imitating the popular concept. I asked Roberta Flack, Tony Hathaway, where has the love gone? And I asked the black people, sing again love to each other and talk about ain't no mountain high enough. Well, how much we love each other and how much we care for each other. It seemed, however, that indeed the tide has begun to turn. People are turning back inside themselves and beginning to sing lyrics. I also criticised Alice Walker's book, The Colour Purple. as one of the most dangerous books that has ever been produced, because not only is it anti-male, it's anti-female. Alice Walker says she's for the black woman, but there is not one black woman in her book that is incredibly heroine. There's not one in the world in there, or that I know would use Sally or Shog or any other characters as a model for their daughter. We have to be honest, all the characters. We have to be honest. All the problems that character generalities, it pretends it's the truth. Other thing that I hate about it is that it encourages black people to believe that the tragedy is the whole truth, rather than simply part of it. And when I say that Alice Walker's Colour Purple made tragedy seem like truth rather than just a part of the truth, I want you to understand that truth is whole. Just like there's a tragedy, there is triumph. It's up and there's a down. Likewise, there's ugly and it's beautiful. But what the European has done is made us assume that tragedy is the most truthful and the most real thing that we can encounter. That's when you want to win an Oscar in Hollywood. You've got to have a death. Even their love stories have to end in deaths. There's a great art is often in pictures of slaughter, of their great dramas is Greek, their great Greek drama, and Shakespeare's tragedies, and even the symbol of the religious is tragic. Of all the ways they could have identified Jesus, rising in the cloud, doing something miraculous, it's the most definitely displayed as a nail to the cross, bleeding. Couldn't he have been presented in a different way? It is basically a multi-European culture. This might be hard for people to accept, but it's difficult to explain why, to explain away. In fact, in European culture, in European context, when you talk of love, you talk of beauty or triumph instead of tragedy, you are mushy. People argue that tragedy are real and that they have some black people and some men like this. That's not the whole truth. If people, men were like that, you have a serious problem. But what has happened is that the European world has made us equate tragedy with reality or truth. And the peaceful payoff, ruling class, is that you equate tragedy with reality. You accept the reality of your struggle situation without even challenging it, because you think that that's your only reality. However, people who know another way will strive to realize themselves against all odds, and they will dare to their liberation at a high level of human. Also, just like the book, because it is not as it deformed black men and women, but in fact, it diverted discussion from serious social issues to whether or not there are some black women that are violent. And if we already know that, it did not inform black men about dialogue and about the beauty of our relationships. It just drew lines and condemned the situation rather than proposing a solution. Moreover, it tended to suggest black men were the problem in society, and suggesting a personal solution rather than a collective one. The last thing I want to speak about is ethos. After you achieve history, religion, social organization, economic organization, political organization, and creative production, you develop a self-concept of who we are in history as a society. That is ethos, which is a people's collective self-concept based on practice of those other 6 areas. I think our ethos should be one of work, study. I want the world to know us as much as the world thinks of us as simple athletes and entertainers. Everybody knows we sing better than anybody else. So let's clap for ourselves and go home. Everybody knows we bleed like gladiators for those who have a heart to bleed for themselves. Everybody knows that. But we are not other than areas. That's where we make our millions, sweating in front of the mic, jumping up on are running down the field. We make our millions. There's also the encourages generation after generation. Thus, that children do not become, grow up astrophysicists, scientists, professionals, teachers, for the people, or builders of people, or builders of society for the people. They grow up wanting to make millions, to sing, or play ball. That's one of the most tragic things about the European system. It has denied us a sense of our human possibilities. The ghetto is a universe. An African proverb says, water is in a coconut shell, sea to the ant. The ant is so small, as a ghetto is. The ant is so small, water in a coconut is like a sea to him. And that is the way of life in a ghetto is. A black man can't even aspire to things because, even though that is possible. But they know music is possible. They know sport is possible. They have blocked and diverted us, our greatness. They have caused historical amnesia in us so that we can't remember what we were. And that's why we seek the jobs instead of ownership. That's why people say they want a piece of pie instead of something larger, the pie itself. What is a piece of the pie? Why not bakery? Just give me 1 minute. So, they have blocked and diverted us and our greatness. They have caused historical amnesia in us, so we can't remember what we were. And that's why we seek a job instead of ownership. That's why people say, I want a piece of the pie, instead of something larger, pie. What is a piece of the pie? Why not a bakery? So we can bake what we want. People just want to get in on the city council because they don't remember the earth. They don't remember when they controlled their own space and raised the images above the earth and reflected their capacity for human greatness. They have no memory of that. Being able to walk down the streets and read their own books and name their child with their own name. As Malcolm said, it is strange for a black person to have a white man's name. He said, "You ever heard a Chinese called Japanese named Jones? You would know something was wrong." And if it sounds funny for a yellow man to have a white man's name, how much more for a black man and a woman to have a white man's name? And it is a testimony of our accommodation and our adjustment that few people find such a thing strange or at least curious. Why doesn't Margaret Thatcher have a name Wong? If she had it, then ask her to resign. It would have racial and cultural implications. Someone was telling me that when my brother was elected to Parliament, he came in his African clothes. The white man asked, "Why don't you dress decently?" What could be more decent than a guy walking around with a string around his neck and a loop, calling it a tie? It is what we do in history that defines who we are, and that will give us our ethos. We must study, we must work, and we must build the ancient Egyptians, as each ancient Egyptian said, we must build for eternity, so we can live for eternity. I want the world to remember us not only as musicians, but people who introduced the basic disciplines of human knowledge, and that honoured that legacy by continuing and expanding. I want us to step back on the stage of human history as a free, proud, productive people. I want us to speak our own special truth to the world. I want you to remember that King Xerxes, or King Soroswet, the Egyptian king, said to do that which I value is forever. So, let me repeat that. He said, to do which is of value is forever. People called forth by his word does not die, for his name is raised and remembered because of it. You should so work, you should build, you should so struggle. that we do challenge us to start a new history of humankind. I want us to speak a special truth to the world. I think, as Fanon said, we cannot give humanity to Europe. Europe conquered and deformed humanity. Because left as it's gone. Because we repeat that. I want us to speak our special truth. I think, as Fanon said, we cannot leave humanity to Europe. Europe, which conquered and deformed humanity, cannot be left as its guardian. But what is our voice? How do we organize our efforts? How do we speak our special truth? We must do so through work, struggle, and study. We must study ourselves, study history. We must understand that there are two tendencies in history. That which is rising and coming into being, growing stronger, that which is dying, decaying, passed away. And we belong to that which is rising, coming into being, growing stronger. Capitalism, racism, sexism belong to that which is dying, decaying, and passing away. In the book of Garvey, and it is said, and it was the wall that came in to the Hackney Black People's Association. Garvey said, "Let no voice, our own, speak to you." And from the depths, he is not, of course, talking about your own personal self. He's talking about you as a people. If you think Garvey is talking about you, you simply, as an individual, you're sorely mistaken. He's talking about you as a person, but most importantly, you as a people. Speak your own truth. Let no voice but your own speak to you. Let no influence but your own rouse you in times of peace and in times of war. Hear all but your own rouse. Let all translate it in your own image and interest. He says, absorb, do not be absorbed. The burning bush Marxist absorbs, gets absorbed. He forgets where he came from. He thinks revolution can simply be imported, that it is a slogan. And you say, and something you say automatically, it occurs in you. Said the right thing, class struggle. We've got to understand that there's no voice like our own. Garvey says, hear it all. That's it. Listen and translate it in your own language. Hear all, Garvey says. Turn only to that which concerns you. Nature makes you what you are. And then, out of your own creative genius, you make ourselves what we want to be. Follow always that great truth, that there are no heights to which we cannot climb by using our active intelligence and our mind. And finally, from the book of Petty, from our own classical civilization, ancient Egypt, we learn not to ever underestimate what we can do and what we are doing. For as King Petty of Egypt says, every day is a donation to eternity, and even 1 hour is a contribution to the future. And at the end of the chapter. I've got a couple of comments here, see if I can put them up. Nero said, are you referring to the okay, she replied to Zendaya. Nero said, the book is called Our Story by Malala. This is a chapter by Malala Craig. This is a book here. Our Story. It's a 1987 book. It's out of print. It's called Our Story. Nero, there is an important point that we need to stop thinking about small and see Africa as a continent, begin to rather see it as a worldwide construct. Cultural identity, that's true. We are all over the world. Raniera says, is this the first week, Brother Jegler? Will there be a different book each week? I've got another chapter to read. I've changed book. I've been reading book for about 3 weeks now, Manera. Is that it, Jem greeting? And Jay Stewart watching. Okay, people. I love you, man. You take care. I'll speak to you next week, yeah? 2 more chapters left of the book, yeah? Let's read Our Story next week. Stay safe. I'll see you next week, yeah? Well, no. Time now. 11 minutes past. Huh? Because when I stopped early before, he said, "Wait, you not giving the time in?" Yeah, a hard time I was doing. Yeah, 1 week though, I felt like I was gonna faint. I was feeling pretty good. Yeah. 3 10.